Hello and welcome. You're watching UTV Live at 6.
Good evening. These are the stories making the headlines.
New CCTV footage of Noah Donohoe is released, showing the teenager just hours before he disappeared.
And with the release of today's video, we would encourage anybody that has any information whatsoever to get in touch with the Coroner Service.
The many faces of a serial fraudster, Marianne Smith, faces jail and deportation after stealing more than £100,000 from her victims.
The family of a Bloody Sunday victim fear for their safety after receiving a death threat.
And the Taoiseach and Deputy First Minister differ over legacy and if the Irish Government should drop its case against the UK Government.
Also tonight,
it's the end of an era for one of our greatest ever sports stars. I've been speaking to Jonathan Rea ahead of his final World Superbike race here in Jerez.
And a weather warning in place for Sunday, heavy rain on the way. I'll have all the details coming up later in the programme.
new CCTV footage of Noah Donohoe, captured on the day the teenager disappeared, has been released by the Coroner's Court in the hope of getting valuable fresh information about the case.
Noah's mother Fiona and family have welcomed the move as they look for answers ahead of an inquest into his death, which is scheduled to start in January. Tori Watson reports.
Movements in the middle of the night, which may unlock the mystery behind a schoolboy's death. Noah Donohoe was 14 years old when he was found dead in June 2020. His body discovered in a storm drain in North Belfast almost a week after he went missing. Previously unseen CCTV footage of the hours before Noah disappeared, now released by those leading the inquest into his death. This footage, taken during the small hours of a dark, damp and drizzly morning on the 21st of June 2020. Noah is seen leaving his South Belfast home on Fitzroy Avenue shortly after 3:30 a.m. He's wearing dark-coloured knee-length shorts, a light-coloured t-shirt and flip-flops, and he's carrying over-ear headphones in his right hand. He then turned right and walked towards Queen's University. The next images show Noah returning home, no longer wearing flip-flops or carrying headphones. He made his way along University Street from the direction of the Ormeau Road towards Queen's University. He then turned left onto Dudley Street, then right onto Fitzroy Avenue, before immediately returning to his house. Once he enters the building, he checks his bare feet before making his way up the stairs. So why has this footage been released now? Well, the coroner, who's overseeing the inquest into Noah's death, wants the public's help. He wants to speak to anyone who knows why Noah left the house that morning, where he went, did he meet with anyone, what happened to Noah's flip-flops and his headphones, and also was this type of behaviour during the hours of the morning usual for Noah?
Every single scintilla of information, evidence is crucial. We can't emphasise that enough. And we hope that the release of today's footage will jog someone's memory to recall even something minor that may fit into a wider jigsaw. And we hope and trust that anybody who has any information will abide by the coroner's appeal and bring that straight to the coroner's attention.
The inquest into Noah's death is due to start early next year. Until then, his family's hope of finding answers continues. Tori Watson, UTV Live.
A prolific fraudster who stole more than £100,000 from people who trusted her will be deported to the United States after serving a prison sentence.
Marianne Smith carried out the thefts while working as a mortgage advisor in Northern Ireland. Our South East reporter Stuart Robson reports from Downpatrick Crown Court.
The multiple faces of a fraudster. Whether she was getting paid in pounds or dollars, Marianne Smith swindled thousands from people to line her own pockets on both sides of the Atlantic, stealing from bank accounts, but now behind bars. Standing in the dock, Marianne Smith remained expressionless as the judge passed her sentence. She was told that she was a skilled fraudster and an expert in deception who was indifferent to whether her victims were friends or strangers. The judge also told her that the victims were not only affected financially, but emotionally too. 56-year-old Smith is a US citizen who moved to Northern Ireland in the early 2000s. Just shy of a decade after arriving, she was secretly in the process of defrauding numerous people, promising them secure investments as a mortgage advisor. However, it was all a guise to garner trust, which she exploited, all to a combined total of £115,000. Her crimes came to light when the alarm was raised to police after she returned to the United States. She was later extradited here in February 2024 to face charges. One victim, who was too affected by Smith's crimes to appear on camera, spoke of the turmoil on her finances and family.
She came to my door and we got very friendly, and she actually babysat two of my two children. We got because we were so friendly.
What was she like to be around as a person?
She was I trusted her. I really did trust her then, because she seemed a very nice lady at that time, and I really did trust her.
How much specifically have you lost because of this?
£23,000, and I lost my house as well, with two young children at the age of 8 and 5 at that time. Thank God I have good family, and they have helped me, because I've had no money, and if it wasn't for my family, I don't know where I would be.
Smith of Spa Road in Ballinhinch will serve half of a 3 years and 4 month sentence in prison and half on licence. Her crimes may have spanned a few years, but their effects will last a lifetime.
It'll always stay with me. I'll never, ever forget, especially when I've had two young children. I'll never forget it, never. It'll be with me to the day I die.
No visits to her in prison, in person or virtually. Marianne Smith's time in Northern Ireland has been shrouded in secrecy and denial. It will end in deportation after her sentence is served. Stuart Robson, UTV Live, Downpatrick Crown Court.
The family of a man shot dead on Bloody Sunday say a death threat issued against them during the trial of Soldier F left them feeling scared.
The threat was posted on social media targeting the three brothers of Willie McKinney. He's one of two men Soldier F denies murdering. Our Northwest correspondent Gareth Wilkinson reports.
For 5 weeks, the McKinney family have been travelling from Derry to Belfast Crown Court, where Soldier F has been on trial. The former paratrooper is charged with murdering their brother Willie McKinney, as well as 22-year-old Jim Ray on Bloody Sunday. But the three McKinney brothers were forced to miss a day of the case. They were meeting with police. A death threat against them had been posted on social media. What were your thoughts when you heard that?
Panic. I think that's how I felt at the time. It was there, and it just changed things totally.
You were scared?
Oh, absolutely. It scared me, surely. I'm always concerned about, who's around us. Who's standing close to us, Yeah. Well, we can't take any chances.
The trip to Belfast has become an almost daily journey on bus or train, now made with trepidation since the threat was posted.
When you're going up in the train, there's times the trains be packed. You're wondering, is this person following us? What do they know about us? And why have they issued this threat? Because from the very start of the Bloody Sunday Justice campaign, we have followed the law. We have stayed within the law, and we have never threatened anybody.
The PSNI say they don't discuss the security of individuals, but say if they receive information that a person's life is at risk, they will be informed, and they don't ignore anything which may put an individual at risk.
It's just bizarre that this is happening, that now we're being threatened and we're now attending a trial to try and get justice for our brother.
The trial ended yesterday, and the McKinneys, as well as other relatives of the dead and injured, return to court next week when a verdict will be delivered. Gareth Wilkinson, UTV Live, Derry.
Stormont ministers were in Dublin today for a meeting of the North-South Ministerial Council.
At a press conference, the Taoiseach Micheál Martin and the Deputy First Minister Emma Little-Pengelly differed over whether the Irish government should drop its interstate case against the UK government now that new legacy legislation has been introduced. Our political editor Tracy McGee reports.
Strolling through the autumn sunshine, First Minister Michelle O'Neill and Deputy First Minister Emma Little-Pengelly were greeted by the Taoiseach in Taoiseach. Micheál Martin and Simon Harris are playing host for this, the 30th meeting of the North-South Ministerial Council. The NSMC is the brainchild of the Good Friday Agreement and is intended to give ministers on both sides of the border an opportunity to meet and discuss areas of cooperation. But afterwards, Michelle O'Neill faced questions about a press conference yesterday following a meeting of the executive. Did she misspeak when she said Health Minister Mike Nesbitt had found £100 million of savings to resolve the nurses' pay dispute?
I'm very certain in terms of the pathway that we have in terms of trying to get a resolution. I think that's the will of the entire executive, that we get a resolution to nurses' pay. So I think we just need to create the space over the next couple of days to allow those conversations to continue and that we get that positive outcome, because ultimately that's where we want to be.
This meeting comes in the same week the UK government published the legislation giving effect to its new legacy proposals. The Taoiseach was asked if the Irish government will abandon its interstate case against the UK government to build unionist confidence.
There's full understanding between the two governments as to how this is progressing, and it's positive. I think we're confident, if I may say so, on behalf of the unionist community and the Irish government, will be most manifest is in how we cooperate with the various inquiries and requests for information that will come our way.
The only unionist at the press conference had this to say.
Our view is very clear. It's not and should never have been up to the Irish government to be holding the feet of the British government to the fire under the threat of a continuance of an interstate case. We believe that the interstate case should never have been taken in the first place. I think it has caused a huge amount of upset for many people, particularly within the unionist community.
This meeting is taking place exactly a week to the day from the Irish presidential election, and so perhaps unsurprisingly, there are a lot of questions from Irish reporters about the campaign, including what role would the president have in facilitating a united Ireland.
We also need to be very honest about what the role of the president is and what the role of the president isn't. The president of Ireland won't decide when there is or isn't a referendum. That's a matter for the Secretary of State of the British government. The President of Ireland won't decide government policy. But what the President of Ireland can do, and we've seen people do this very well, we've seen Mary McAleese do it extraordinarily well, is use their office, use their power, their soft power, to facilitate conversations, to bring people together, to promote reconciliation.
So warm words about a constructive meeting and working together, but as always, disagreement is never far away. Tracy McGee, UTV Live, Dublin.
Northern Ireland is living through the longest period without a national security attack since the start of the Troubles. That's the latest assessment from the head of MI5.
And if it continues, we could see the security threat, which currently stands at substantial, lowered further. Our crime security correspondent Sharon O'Neill reports.
Race riots, organised crime, the ever-growing threat of violence against women. Murdered this year, Vanessa White and her 2 children, and Sarah Montgomery, who was pregnant with the son she always wanted.
In Northern Ireland, the security forces have been placed on full alert this weekend.
Where terrorism once dominated the headlines and dominated the minds of police here more than anything else, that is no longer the case. Proof of that, the latest annual assessment from the head of MI5 on the threat here. And it appears to show the one posed by dissident Republicans is diminishing even further.
Northern Ireland. Communities there are now living through the longest period without a national security attack since the start of the Troubles. We will continue with the police to bear down on residual threats and degrade terrorist capabilities.
I think we do have to welcome them, but with caution, and I think the police would likely do the same. It doesn't mean that they're going to stop doing the job that they're currently doing in order to protect from all threats in society, but we can cautiously hope that as we move in to the future, that we do become a society that does not have paramilitaries, whether it's dissidents or loyalists, that actually control our communities.
On the dissident front, the current threat level is substantial, meaning an attack is likely as opposed to highly likely. A lot of work goes on behind the scenes that you don't see to make sure any plot doesn't come to fruition. Now, the largest organisation, the new IRA, doesn't pose the same threat it once did. So attacks tend to be more sporadic in nature. And there's also talk of a ceasefire on the cards. Back in March 2023, the terror threat was raised to severe following a rise in dissident activity and the attempt to murder senior officer John Codwell when he was off duty at a youth football training session in Omagh. Shot several times in front of his son, the detective has now medically retired from the police service. After the shooting, another clampdown against the new IRA and the terror threat was lowered again, and for a year and a half has remained the same. Could it be reduced even further? Well, that would be up to MI5.
I don't think we can ever say they are done, because that really runs the risk of us becoming complacent. And I think the police would probably share that as well, that they will always assess what the current threat level is, and also they will always put resources to ensure that they are targeting that too.
Sharon O'Neill, UTV Live.
Time now to look at tonight's ITV News at 6:30.
Here's Lucrezia Millerini.
Coming up on tonight's ITV Evening News, anger over the decision to stop supporters of Maccabi Tel Aviv from attending an Aston Villa match. We have the latest on the controversial Israeli fan ban. The advert that helped con vulnerable timeshare owners out of millions of pounds. Today, one of the masterminds behind the scam is sentenced. And charging into the face of danger when others wouldn't. The police officers who dealt with the Hainault attack are honoured for their outstanding bravery at this year's Pride of Britain Awards. Join me for those stories and more at 6:30.
Now, plumbing, mechanics and tiling are all jobs most of us would associate with men.
But a new initiative by Women's Tech and the Housing Executive is looking to get more women into trades. Jordan Moore has this report.
So when the tyre wears down to those tread indicators, that's when we know the tyre needs changed.
Crucial skills for the next generation. Claudie mechanic Tyler Woods has been on a long road to get more women into non-traditional jobs, something she says the screw has been slowly turning on.
The amount of construction engineers that are women, and bus drivers, lorry drivers, everything in general, I just think it's so much more accepted now. And not that it wasn't really accepted, but you had a high expectation to live up to. I do still think women do put a lot of pressure on themselves.
At the weekend, Tyler takes women's only mechanic classes, and during the week she helps out the next generation at workshops such as this one put on by Women's Tech.
You would have ever considered any of these careers without coming to something like this?
No, I was kind of looking at it and thinking, but now it's kind of opened a lot of doors.
Probably not. Maybe because you get quite a lot of money for it.
Yeah, I probably would, because the money's good. So.
While the building blocks might be in place, those involved say a lot of work still needs to be done, and that makes opportunities like this all the more important.
Especially here in Northern Ireland, and even when I went back to do my gas course and stuff, I was still, I think, the only girl in the class. Yeah, it's just so important, I think, to give them a taste of it, and like you said, let them know that they are able to do whatever they want to do, really.
I always wanted to work towards doing this. I just love teaching people and helping people. I think see that encouragement, especially at the age the girls are. I think I didn't get that, and I just feel as if that's the age to get them at.
For many girls, jobs like this might not be the norm, but the message here is clear. Why not? Jordan Moore, UTV Live, Coleraine.
Great skills to have, and you can see a longer version of Jordan's reports over on ITVX. You can also catch up with all our programmes, including UTV Live.
Now, time for sport.
And Ruth brings us all the action from a sunny Spain.
What a drive! John Mulholland Motors, sponsors of UTV Sport.
It's the last dance for one of Northern Ireland's greatest ever sports stars. Jonathan Rea will hang up his leathers after the final World Superbike race here in Jerez this weekend. After an unprecedented 6 world titles, he's the greatest the sport has ever seen. But after a difficult couple of years, he's ready to walk away. I've been speaking to him and his family about what will be an emotional but celebratory weekend here in Spain. Jonathan, 17 years after you made your World Superbike debut, you were a guest that day in Portugal. You finished 4th and you said, let's see what happens. Could you have imagined what all was about to unfold?
No, I really couldn't, to be honest. It exceeded my wildest expectations to have the career I've had, and I think if you'd have told me that back then I'd have laughed at you, but it was a case of just keep on keeping on and waiting for my opportunity. I got to ride with incredible teams, technical staff, and I learned so much in my early days back in 2009 when I wildcarded in Portimao, but I think 2015 when I moved to the Kawasaki racing team and worked with that crew and the bike, I found the glove, that fitted me perfect, and I was able to win so many races and championships, and I think I'd have laughed at you if you told me the success I would have had, so very, very grateful and very proud.
You told me after you announced your retirement that a weight had been lifted off your shoulders a bit. What have the last few races been like for you?
It has, because I felt like, I think I described it to you, that I felt like myself as a character in a video game that had just been killed off. Or that's the feeling I would have if I announced my retirement. So I was really sad making that announcement, but when I did, I figured that character would just exist but in a different game. And these last few races went feel good with the bike, at least a lot better, and find some confidence. That's the biggest thing I've been missing. It's uncharacteristic for me these last 2 seasons to crash so much on the rear of the bike, so that really dented confidence, and I underestimated how long it would take to recover from that, and slowly but surely I felt better on the bike the last few weeks, and being able to battle legitimately inside the top 5, which is nice. So it would be amazing to fight in there this weekend again, last race, and give a good account of ourselves signing out.
You've got your family coming over for this weekend. What will that mean to you to have them back here? Because in the early days they were travelling with you, and then when school started, Tarsh had to stay at home with the kids, and they don't get out as much now. So it's going to be special this weekend with them here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Tyler's going to be 10 in a few weeks. That was 10 years since I won my first world title here, and it was borderline, flying Tarsh out to be here when I won my first title in Jerez, but she was here, and it's been a whirlwind since then. They've been the backbone of my career. I'm not sure if it was coincidence or just the moment in time, but pretty much since we had Jake in 2013, had broken my femur just before he was born, but the following year in 14 I was with Honda, had a great season. The next year went to Kawasaki, and the rest history. It's in the books. It's been incredible. So both my wife Tarsh and Jake and Tyler, they've been a huge grounding force behind me, as well as my biggest supporters, as well as my extended family. Mum and dad and brothers and sisters are going to be here as well, so I haven't got caught up in the emotions just before the weekend, but I'm sure when the dust settles and the adrenaline sort of comes out, it'll be a really nice time to spend with them.
It's the end of an era this weekend. How are you feeling?
Do you know what? We're excited to be here because we don't get to many races anymore, but yeah, it's mixed emotions, to be honest, because want him to do well, want him to go out with a bang, but also just want him to get home safe. Not really taking it all in, to be honest, just take it day by day. I think Sunday will be, it'll be emotional, of course it will be, but we're excited about what's next, and I think that's where we're just focusing on at the minute, just keep looking forward.
What an incredible career for Jonathan Rea, and hopefully he can finish off this weekend with a podium finish. Now on to rugby. After their impressive bonus point win over the Bulls, Ulster are in South Africa for their next 2 games. The Sharks are next up for Richie Murphy's team at Kings Park in Durban tomorrow. Harry Sheridan replaces the injured Cormac Izachukwu. Mike Lowry and Vernon Cock return to the back line. The home side welcome back a number of Springboks. In Gaelic games, the club football finals in Derry, Down and Fermanagh take place, and the Antrim hurling final also takes place between Lochgiel and St John's. Daniel Duffy looks ahead.
It's over. It's all over. St John's have done it. He's blown the whistle.
Good things come to those who wait.
St John's haven't been in an Antrim hurling final since 1994, and in fact haven't won it since 1973. The excitement is building at the West Belfast club. Days like these don't come around very often.
Let's be honest, this is our first final in 30 years. We haven't won it in 50 years, so for 75% of our membership, this is all new. And to say the buzz over the last 2 weeks since we beat Cushendall in the semis has been unreal. It's something I'm 50 years of age and I've never experienced anything like this.
A city club hasn't won the Antrim hurling title since Rossa lifted the Volunteer Cup in 2004. North Antrim sides have dominated the competition in recent years.
You know, there's a lot of clubs, a lot of people in Belfast who are very passionate about their hurling. And there definitely has been a change in the last couple of years. For the city itself, it'd be a big buzz, and there has been a buzz. I'm surprised because we're St John's and we probably wouldn't be the most popular club in Antrim, but a lot of people have been wishing as well. So it's not just for our own membership, it's for the hurling in the city.
The team of 1973 are legends in these parts. Not many are giving St John's a chance on Sunday, but not many did 52 years ago.
According to the bookies, we had no chance of winning it, but we dug in and we got the result. And the way this team's going this year reminds me a bit about that team. They're all heart, gives you a great lift. Like it's been a long way, so we're trying to get a bit of a buzz, I think.
We were going for the double that year, and unfortunately we were beat in the football. But maybe that drove us on in the hurling, I'm not too sure. Our lads have trained very, very hard, and they're a great bunch of lads. They seem to be just knitting together. This past couple of years they've been knocking on the door, and they've got through this year, so you know, it's all guns blazing for those lads, you know. Never won a boo on Sunday.
Well, that's it from Jerez, where Jonathan Rea will end his World Superbike career. 17 years competing at the top, and 10 years after winning his first world title here in Spain. He will hang up his leathers and enjoy a quieter life. Let's hope he finishes strongly and safely here in Jerez. Bye for now.
What a drive! John Mulholland Motors, sponsors of UTV Sport.
Well, it was sunny in Spain. Let's see what the weekend weather has in store for us here.
Here's Aisling with all the details.
It's time to take a rain check. There's no place like home. UTV Weather. Sponsored by the Grande Rona R290 heat pump.
Hello there and a very good evening to everyone at home. Plenty of cloud around today, but high pressure generally has been in charge of the weather, and that is all set to change. So the Met Office today issued a weather warning for Sunday for some very heavy rainfall, and the heaviest of that rain is going to be over the Mourne Mountains. There could be 80 to 100 mils of rain, so that is quite a lot of water in a very short space of time. But in general, there could be some disruption as you head through Sunday. As for the rest of this evening and overnight, it's still relatively quiet out there. Always some clouds. A little bit of a breeze, though, picking up by the end of the night, and temperatures dropping back to around 9 degrees Celsius, so relatively mild start for the time of year to start off the weekend. But throughout Saturday morning, you may notice that cloud breaking up, and certainly breezier than recently. And then into the afternoon, the breeze continues to pick up. Now, there may be a little bit of sunshine into the afternoon breaking through, but there's also the possibility of just a few showers. Temperatures, though, still holding up at around 14 degrees Celsius. Across the rest of Ireland, different story here. You can see that weather front introducing some outbreaks of rain, and some of that really quite heavy. Winds quite strong as well, particularly along the south coast here. Well, let's just take a look at the bigger picture across the Atlantic. So high pressure very much moving away now. That settled spell of weather is coming to an end. And it's all about this low pressure centre here. It's going to push its way eastwards, but it's this weather front that's going to introduce quite a lot of rainfall from around midnight to around midday on Sunday. So certainly if you do have any plans for the weekend, please stay up to date with the forecast with a weather warning in place for Sunday.
UTV Weather, sponsored by the Grande Rona R290 heat pump.
Now don't forget, Pammy is back with UTV Live from 7 o'clock this evening. That is the very latest this Friday, the 17th of October.
Yes, Aidan Brown will be back with the late news at 10:30. The ITV News continues with Lucrezia from the entire UTV team. Have a lovely evening and a great weekend. Bye-bye.